Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Would like to call our Hamilton County Board of Election meeting to order. Today is January the 23rd, 2024, and it is approximately 8:39. Would also like to indicate that proper notice has been given as required under the Ohio Revised Code 121.22. We're going to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like anyone who has served our country or serving our country to lead us in the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for those who have served our country or serving, thanks for your service. We're going to begin the meeting first with the board meeting minutes from January the 2nd, 2024. Those meetings have been sent to us. We have reviewed them. Are there any changes or in the minutes as reflected in the notes?
I have no changes. I'll move approval of the board meeting minutes from our January 2nd, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? And that motion carries. Next, we have discussion regarding the November 2023 general election, precinct election official performance evaluations. Ms. Poland.
Yes, Madam Chair, staff has completed the assessment from the November 7th general election. A summary report is contained in your packets. I'll start with the good news. Out of 296 polling locations, 221 of those locations received a perfect score according to our approved weighted scale. 57 locations, it's staff recommendation that the poll workers at those locations be retrained in the specific area where they need improvement. Those are listed, the different areas are listed in the summary. Of course, because this is a primary election, we will be training all poll workers for the upcoming March primary election. But the poll workers who worked at these specific 57 locations will be sent additional training materials, letting them know which areas they need improvement in. And then there were 18 locations that, although they did not receive a perfect score, it's our recommendation that no further retraining is needed. But we do need board approval of these summary assessment.
Very good.
Any more discussion?
I'll move approval of the precinct election official performance evaluations as recommended by staff.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? And that motion carries. Next, we have a discussion regarding the November 2023 general election anomaly report. Ms. Poland.
Yes, there was one item remaining from our original anomaly report, and that is regarding an incident that occurred at the Mount Airy nursing home during the November 7th general election cycle. The board had directed staff to conduct interviews of the nursing home employees involved in the incident, and the deputy director and I did a site visit, conducted those interviews. We also interviewed our temporary employees that were at the facility that day. It's basically our findings. So that was a total of 7 people that were interviewed. And our findings was that one of the individuals that we interviewed at the nursing home, her statements were inconsistent with the other 6.
So I will, I also, in addition to what I heard here, I did get a brief summary from the director. And at this juncture, I don't know that a whole lot more should be said on the record, only because I know that originally the Sheriff's Department was involved and then stepped back for us to take a look. My opinion today is that our staff has done its responsibility, interviewed the various players here. At this point, and again, we've referred plenty of cases that don't get prosecuted, but I think we should hand this over to the prosecutor's office just for further investigation to see if there was any wrongdoing at the nursing home. So my motion will be that we just refer the entire matter back to the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office for further discussion and investigation, and just take this out of the board's hands. That's my position.
Any discussion? Any thoughts?
I'll second that.
I have a question first. Does this reflect, to me, it seems like it's a violation, and a violation, does it require having to go to the prosecutor's office? I'm going to ask our legal person at the end of the table. Go ahead.
I think you've been instructed by the Secretary of State in the past that if you determine a violation has been committed, you're to refer it.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, the other alternative would be, at least in my mind, maybe not in the other board members' mind, to be continuing the investigation here, issuing subpoenas here, using more board resources to do an investigation. And frankly, I originally was in that place that I thought we ought to, exhaust things here. But given that it's, we're already in the throes of a presidential cycle, we're weeks away from a primary election. And again, we've done that. I've been on this board for a decade and a half. We send cases there. They don't, again, we don't make the prosecutorial decision. They do. They should. We could expend more board resources doing more investigation, or we can just let them do what they're expert at, and that is turning their investigative team on this matter to see if there was in fact a violation. And again, our concern, at least my concern, I won't speak for Chip, although I think I might, that we have a vulnerable population here in a nursing home, and they're being influenced improperly before they cast their ballot. And I think that's an important consideration for our community and for voting integrity. So for that reason, I definitely think we should continue to take a look at this and let the prosecutor's office do its job. So that's my motion. That's my argument.
I'd like to just question what you just said, basically, because you said they're being influenced. I don't know if there is strong enough evidence to state that all of those individuals were being influenced. That's why I question, what type of violation is this, and is it one that requires going to the prosecutors? And if we have had situations like this in the past where we've brought those individuals in to interview, then that's what I think that we should do. But again, that's my opinion.
So when we subpoena these individuals, or whoever the individual is, that's on the record, correct? I'm not opposed to subpoenaing and bringing the person in front of the board and having them on the record.
But generally, it is on the record, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, Madam Chair, my primary concern is that there's evidence, at least in my mind, that a worker at this nursing home was providing campaign literature improperly in what was essentially a polling location, and doing so against Ohio law. I mean, I guess we could subpoena people in here, but people are subject to criminal penalty, and while we've done it in the past, I'm convinced that there's enough reason to allow the professionals to look into this, again, with it's not our decision whether to prosecute or not, but to leave it with the professionals in the prosecutor's office to determine if there is reason to go further. They have professional investigators who understand how to investigate these matters without bringing people into a public setting. I mean, the people that may have done something wrong have rights as well. So for that reason, I'm in favor of turning this over to the prosecutor's office, but at least we need to continue pursuing this. I just think it makes more sense to allow the professionals to look at it rather than us at this point.
Mr. Stevenson, I don't want to put you on the spot. There are things that may be part of the investigation so far that could potentially compromise a future criminal investigation. Is there anything about what we're doing right now that could allow us to go into executive session so we could have a further conversation about what the evidence says? I mean, is the quasi-judicial proceeding component of the Records Act invoked here, or no? Maybe not?
Probably not.
Okay, very good. All right.
I have another question. Well, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, I think I heard our colleague say that technically it's not a poll location. We send out our people from the Board of Elections to vote these individuals, but it's not a poll location by law. You know, we're servicing them because we send a bipartisan team out to the location where they reside at the nursing home, and we take the ballot to them. And I understand that they shouldn't be coerced either way, but it's not technically a poll location.
Yeah, that was, I understand the legal distinction. I just, I also have a concern if we are going to subpoena those that may have done something wrong, witnesses, which include other staffers at the nursing home, our temporary poll workers, election day workers, and most importantly, residents. We may have to subpoena residents of a nursing home to come here and provide testimony rather than allowing investigators to go there and question them to determine whether or not this matter needs to go further. Again, I will go either route because I believe we need to get to the bottom of this. I just think that it is less invasive and, frankly, problematic for us as a board and staff, and primarily for residents that we decide to do this here. But I'll go in either direction.
Yeah, if, given what my colleague said about going in either direction, I mean, it seems to me, and what I'm hearing from my colleagues here on the other side, is that you would, if I withdrew my motion, you would be in favor of issuing subpoenas and bringing some of the parties before this body and continue our investigation that way? Is that right?
I'm of that opinion, yes.
Okay. Again, I frankly thought that it would be less of a circus if we just sent it over, but I'm perfectly satisfied with that. If that's I guess it's a compromise. I'm happy to withdraw my motion then. I believe I'm entitled to withdraw it. I'll withdraw my motion at this point. And then I will make a motion that we begin issuing subpoenas, at least to those three, I believe it was three, Sherry, employees of the...
There were 3 employees that we interviewed. One no longer works at the facility, and based on our account, really had very little involvement with, it was mainly 2.
So we're talking about 2.
Very good. So that my motion, just to clarify, will be to subpoena those 2 individuals. Can you just identify them by name, since we're going to be issuing public subpoenas? Do you have that in front of you?
Yes. One is Gwen Gillian.
Okay.
Gillian, and the other is Lachelle Shabazz.
Okay.
I have a question. When we issue subpoenas, and my understanding is the subpoena must be put in the individual's hand, not slapped to their door. It's because, is that the process? I mean, it should, or sometimes if they can't get in an apartment, they slap it to the outdoor door that's locked. I would want to make sure that subpoena is delivered in person.
I believe, as for legal counsel's guidance, I believe we can request personal service of the sheriff's department.
Well, you certainly can request personal service, but there's a number of ways to issue subpoenas. The issue that comes up is that if it's not placed in their hand, you probably cannot go to a court and ask for a contempt finding if they don't show up, but that's a different issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you issue a subpoena, and even if it's sent by mail and they show up, your subpoena's been honored.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
So I just want to take a minute then. There are people that are maybe potentially watching, and some folks here in the room, on what we're talking about. Some of you may not know. Let me make it clear then. In the November election, we had bipartisan teams that went to a nursing home in the area, and we do that routinely to allow our nursing home residents to cast their important vote, right to vote. And upon entering the facility, this bipartisan team noticed that this slate card, for the Democratic Party was already placed with the, with a information card for each voter, and essentially, we believe there was electioneering, that is campaigning inside the polling location by a member of the nursing home staff, and that only one particular political viewpoint was presented to those residents. That is of grave concern, again, with a population, an aging population in the nursing homes, to only get one slate card. So that's the allegation. We had previously at this board asked our staff to investigate. They did so. I think the director said they may have found some discrepancies in the version of events, one being from our bipartisan team that was on site, another one being from the nursing home staff. But at the end of the day, our concern, at least my concern, I think Chip probably agrees, is that you can't have this kind of electioneering occurring inside a polling location. And to the extent that it's happening, this board ought to investigate it, expose it, and stop it. So our position today was to refer this, what we have already, which is essentially what I've shared, I think, over to the prosecutor's office so they could continue the investigation. But in the spirit of comity here, I will agree that we should issue subpoenas to interested parties and continue our investigation here in a public forum so the public can see exactly what potentially, possibly, allegedly transpired in one of our nursing home communities. So with that, my motion will be that we issue subpoenas to a Gwen Gilliam and to a Lachelle Shabazz at that particular nursing home facility, and that we do that for our upcoming meeting, which I think is Tuesday, February 20th.
February the 20th?
That's the date I have.
That is the date of our next board meeting,
So that's my
February 20th.
motion, that we issue those subpoenas.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? And that motion carries. Thank you.
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Boland? Yes.
Is it the pleasure of the board to subpoena the board staff involved, or to just simply request their appearance?
I would say the board staff involved as well,
Yeah, I think
to get a pretty much more holistic opinion.
I agree, yeah. So I'll make a second motion that we subpoena at least the two, I'll look to the director. but-
There were four
Four?
staff members,
Yeah.
temporary staff members that were present at the facility that day.
And you've interviewed all them?
Yes, the deputy
Okay.
director and I have interviewed all four of them. I believe they came in willingly to speak with us.
I just think, again, this is where we get outside our usual obligations, but I think at this point, we're having to treat everybody similarly, and if we're going to subpoena one side, we ought to subpoena everybody, is my view. So I'll just move that we subpoena those additional four people and have them come before us, again, under penalty of perjury on the subpoena, and take testimony.
For a point of clarification, are we talking about the board staff that were there on the day the incident occurred? Because when you look at this, we've had our director and deputy director go out as well and meet and interview the person to validate what the staff observed or thought they observed on that election day. So my question is, are we talking about those individuals that were right there that day when the incident occurred, or when the deputy director and the director went out to validate and to verify the information?
Sherry, were all four there in that day? The four people that we've identified, and excluding you and Alex for a minute?
They were not at the nursing home, so it was only the deputy director and I that went to the nursing home.
I'm talking about the original, when the original episode was uncovered.
The four employees, the temporary employees, Alex and I interviewed each one of them separately.
Right, but they were at the nursing home during the election?
Yes.
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 Yeah. All
yes.
four of them?
All four of them
Yeah,
were
okay.
present.
So the four observed what they considered to be some sort of, something that wasn't really.
Yes, all four reported to us that they witnessed the anomaly.
Got it.
And they worked for us, they were our staff, they were our temporary employees, correct?
They're temporary employees.
So if we just made a simple request, I'm sure they would probably show up instead of getting a subpoena. What do you think?
Again, I'll share an answer before I tell you my position.
All four of them, well, one was out of town. The other three came in willingly to meet with Alex and I. Did not hesitate. They all three came in. The one that was out of town, we conducted a phone interview with. So they were all willing to meet with the deputy director and I.
So we're talking about 4 or 3? Because it seems to me, if one was out of town and you took a phone interview.
But all four were present at the nursing home when this anomaly occurred. I can check with staff. We may have all four of these same individuals scheduled to come back for the March election, and they've agreed to come back to work the March election.
So I'm in agreement in bringing them in because they were the actual on-site, had direct contact with whatever took place out there. So however we get them here, I'm okay. I didn't know if we needed to subpoena them since they worked for us and they're going to be working for us again, and that they may be more of a voluntary come in on their own.
My personal view, again, maybe just because I've had the unfortunate experience practicing law for 25 years, subpoenas don't have a stigma in my mind. It's just a way to treat everybody the same. And
Okay.
if I issue a subpoena, everyone knows they're under power of subpoena. And frankly, if one side came and the other side didn't, one side was subpoenaed, the other side wouldn't, I think this board would come under some scrutiny for not treating everybody equally.
Gotcha.
So,
Well,
and-
I support that.
I got you.
I mean, we have to be consistent.
yeah, so in my mind, if we just subpoena those additional 4 individuals, and then we can take testimony. There is one more complicating factor, and that is indeed that both the director and the deputy, also could potentially provide relevant testimony in this matter. Again, this goes back to my original concern as to why we ought to just ship the investigative responsibilities elsewhere. But since it didn't seem like we were going to get a majority vote for that issue, I'll just point out that we have ourselves in a situation where both the director and deputy may, have to provide testimony as to what exactly occurred, because I think, I think they did an initial part, they did an important part of the investigation, and like any other investigator, they would be subject to questioning. Again, to take it a step further, if I were these 2 individuals, I perhaps would go retain counsel, and then I would want to question those individuals who are offering potential testimony against me. So again, that just goes to my original point as to why this board ought to be conducting elections. But I mean, it is our obligation, both under the law and the directives, to do investigations, and that we will. So my motion will be that we subpoena those 4 individuals as identified by the director and the deputy who were on site and offered relevant testimony to the potential anomaly that occurred on Election Day.
Second.
Madam Chair, what about residents? We've been informed that residents identified at least one of these people as having provided this.
I'm not,
Document.
I'm not real comfortable with getting the clients involved.
I'm not comfortable with any of this, but this is where we're going. We're going to conduct this investigation. That's why I favor allowing professionals to do it, but if
I'm
we're-
not comfortable with bringing in clients from a nursing home.
Exactly. But they're part of this, is my point. And if we're going to conduct an investigation, we need to conduct an investigation. That's why there are professionals that are trained and paid to do this.
My concern is there were individuals who observed this. There may be individuals that didn't understand in the nursing home what was going on, because perhaps, I don't know, cognitively, completely where they were, but I think when the concern was raised by our poll worker, our poll workers there, and then came to us as the professionals, it's our responsibility and our role to provide, have those individuals subpoenaed and to discuss the matter. I am not comfortable and will not support dragging in somebody from a nursing home.
I don't want to.
No, I'm
But
not
that's where we're
supporting.
going with this.
I don't
is
think
my
we,
point.
I don't think we are.
Call for
We
the
didn't
question.
identify that. Yes.
Call for the question. Motion on the floor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that'll all be on the February 20th meeting, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. We'll build in a little extra time. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have certification, discussion on certification from for the March 19th, 2024 primary election write-in candidates. Ms. Poland?
Yeah, Madam Chair, no write-in candidates filed for the primary election.
Wow.
And as well as the next agenda item, there were no charter amendments filed for the primary election either. So we can skip over those two agenda items.
I
Interesting.
have a question. So when is the deadline? I haven't seen the election calendar yet for the independent candidate filing.
It's the day before the
Day
primary.
before, okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Discussion? Next, then, we're going to discuss the March 19th, 2024 primary election ballot printing outsourcing plan. Ms. Poland?
Yes, a copy of that plan is in your packet. This is basically the same plan that we've conducted the past several elections. It's to allow our print vendor, MCR, to print our absentee ballots and assemble the packets. They're then brought here to the Board of Elections for quality control review before being delivered to the post office. Also want to mention, we also have staff on site for a period of time when the process is beginning. We thought it was important to do this in this primary election to help us better prepare for the November election. So the board does need to approve the plan.
I'll move that we approve the March 19th, 2024 primary election ballot printing outsourcing plan.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, we have a contract with MCR, correct?
We do,
Okay, so,
yes.
okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? And that motion carries. Next, we have discussion on campaigning during early voting period policy. Ms. Poland?
Yes, a copy of your, the policy is in the packet. This is basically the practice that the board has been using regarding campaigning at the Board of Elections for several election cycles now. We mail notice to the campaigns before each election of the campaigning, parking, and traffic regulations surrounding the Board of Elections during the campaign period. And staff is just asking that the board formalize that practice into policy. There were a few changes of note as far as parking restrictions. We just would, we're asking the board to allow that discretion be given to the deputy director and I on when to restrict parking to only voters in our parking lot, because it varies based on the election cycle and even really the timing of the election cycle and whether or not we have enough parking spaces. And then to also allow discretion to the deputy director and I regarding designation of campaign areas. During most election cycles, the one campaign area is sufficient, but there's times during the cycle where we may need to add additional campaign designated areas based on the line. So we're just asking to give us discretion based on that.
So when you talked about restricting voter parking only, so you're talking about by the early vote center specifically? You're not talking about the entire campus?
During the presidential, it would probably be the entire campus, or at least to restrict it to ask to have campaigners park someplace else. We had to do that in 2020.
Okay.
When I'm looking at this policy again, I think it's very well and clearly written, and I agree with us making sure that we make our voters and everyone aware what our guidelines are. And just emphasizing again, the most important thing for we here as the board is that we ensure public safety. And public safety is identified, and sometimes perhaps maybe I think we ought to make public safety in bold print. And then when we get down to the next to the last paragraph, It is the board's expectation that all campaign and electioneers share the space I just thought adding in a civil manner, respectfully, and respect the rights of voters to cast their ballot, free from interference. That, to me, is very, very important from my observations in the past few years. I know you can't measure civility, but I just think perhaps injecting that civil manner would be okay, but it's clearly understood that we mean that.
But we've been informally operating under these guidelines for the past couple of elections, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We're just going to formalize it now.
Yes,
Okay.
into policy.
That's
Okay.
my own opinion.
Okay.
Legal counsel's had a chance, I'm sure, to sign off? Yep. Yeah, no, I support the policy. I just debated whether I was going to say this, but I can tell you that in the last cycle, I had occasion to visit a few other counties, big counties, I won't name them, and it was madness. You get out of your car, you got accosted, there are people all over the parking lot. We do it better.
Yes, we
Not-
do.
Not one bit surprised, by the way, given our statewide reputation for excellence, but we do it way better. And I know, and I say that, and Sherry's probably thinking, oh, God, hope nothing bad happens this year. But I just want to say that I think codifying what we've been trying to impose is important because, you know, everybody up here has is involved in politics in some way, but we also recognize that that has to stop 100 feet from the polling location. We
Yes.
have to give citizens of whatever political persuasion the absolute right to go and cast their ballot
Absolutely.
without the interference of any campaigners, while also protecting the First Amendment rights of those people. So
And
I support the
protect-
policy.
And protecting our deputy director and our director. You know, because they're out there on the front line as well. All right,
So we need a motion, right?
Yes.
did you make a motion?
No, I'll make a motion that we adopt the early vote center campaigning, parking, and traffic policy.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. Next on our agenda is a resolution agreement to review voting system project contract addendum to the Ohio State contract, which was Resolution 2024-001. Ms. Poland.
Yes, hard to believe, but it's already been 5 years since we implemented our current generation of the HART vote counting system, the Verity system. The original contract called for an initial 5-year term with the option to renew for another 5 years. We've had very successful elections with HART InterCivic, and we're asking and recommending that the board adopt this resolution for the next, to renew for one 5-year term.
I'll move adoption of resolution number 24-001.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? And that motion carries. Any other business? I would just like to say, too, we've had, Kenny is not present today. He is the representative from the Secretary of State's office, but he continues to do a yeoman's job of representing and helping us and his, through, if we have any questions. And just want to say he could not make it today, but he just said that he doesn't have anything to report at this particular time. Thank you. Any more discussion?
Move
Need a
to adjourn.
motion? Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone abstaining? And as I always say, at this point, none but the devil.
That's right.
Okay,
Thank you,
this
Madam
meeting
Chair.
is adjourned.